Hey, peace, everybody. Peace. What's going on? What's happening? This your girl Tiffany coming through here live in the Fat, and I got a special guest with me today. So I know you guys have seen him before. He's a familiar face throughout the YouTube network. He's been on many platforms. So today or tonight, we're going to be talking about the origin and history of the Nuwaubian nation, and I want to go into the history about the noon science. Um, so my guest here, who's a former
Yes,
Nuwaubian himself,
yes,
who's
yes,
been in it for a long time, so he knows the information, he knows about the history and all of that. So I want to introduce Brother Chuck Morgan. How you doing, Brother Chuck?
all is well. First time meeting you, so this is going to be interesting.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. So, it's an honor and pleasure to have you here. Really, it is, cause I couldn't do the origin of the topic about the Nuwaubians without bringing you on. So you know a lot more about the history better than I do. All right. So before I get into the information about the Nuwaubian, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and your background, and or if you have a degree and anything like that?
Well, it's not anything special. It's just that my association with the organization started around about 1989, and it's no big thing. I was working at a black-owned bookstore, Pyramid Books, in Washington D.C. House of Knowledge is what it was called, right up the street from Howard University, and that was the link that I had to the organization because I had seen them in different parts of the city dressed in white. So naturally, I was curious because of being there, and you had different groups that were there, but I didn't find much of their material, if any, in that location. So over time, I got a chance to meet some of the guys, talk, blah blah blah, and I slowly started to become part of the organization for different reasons. So
Okay.
it wasn't anything spectacular. It's just that mine was a fact-finding mission in regards to the 5% Nation and how that related, because there was an incident that happened with me and them in Georgetown, D.C. So I figured that since the guys that I talked to had some information, I said, let me go ahead and check it out. And they gave me some audio tapes of York and maybe a book or two. And that was the start of this inquiry.
Okay, so now are you originally from Washington, D.C.?
Yes,
Okay, you're a fan of go-go music.
absolutely. Junkyard Dog, NEG. Oh yeah, Chuck Brown. Yeah, yeah. That's my
Oh
thing.
yeah, okay. I just had to bring it up because I did a video about go-go music a while back. So
Oh
I just
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I was just
That's my
wondering.
thing.
Okay, that's what's
That's my,
up.
I used to play in the go-go band, as a matter of fact, back in the old days. Masterpiece. That's what
Oh,
we were back in the '70s. Yeah.
oh, back in the 70s? Oh, don't tell me your age.
Oh yeah. You know.
Don't tell me your age. You said back in the
Yeah.
70s. Don't tell me your
Yeah.
age.
Yeah. Well, everybody know I'm old, so. But I have a decent
Okay.
spirit.
Well, you look good. You look like a young
I
man. You
appreciate
look good. You look really
that.
good.
I attribute that to no drugs, smoking, or drinking.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So you say you started with the Nuwaubian Nation around 1989, and you
Yeah.
came across. Okay. So how long did you stay with them?
I literally stayed with the organization. Really, to be honest with you, I held on all the way up until about 2011.
What?
Hmm. You see,
Wow.
I was still in contact with York during the time he was in jail. Back and forth corresponding letters. I was on the what do you call it? The in jail you have a mailing list of individuals that you can receive mail from. So I was one of them because I was one of his students. And plus I had talk radio as well in DC. And some of my shows were dedicated to talking about his plight, and he's a political prisoner, all that kind of stuff. So being able to stay in contact with him, I would get information. But it really blossomed long before that. But because that was my connection and my contribution to the organization that could get the message out outside of Georgia, um, I was using that venue during the Pacifica stations under Kathy Hughes. Joe Masson was my mentor, and he was the one who actually instructed me on how to being in the studio and all that kind of stuff. So that was a vehicle that he used in order to get a message out. So he was innocent and all this kind of stuff.
Okay, wow, you've been a long member. You was there for a long time.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah. So now I have some of the books by the Nuwaubians. I never
yeah.
joined the organization myself,
Hmm.
but I used to be around them because they used to be in downtown Atlanta area.
Right.
So they used to be downtown a lot, and they had I guess they had like a building. They had a building in Lithonia, Georgia. Then they moved from. I mean, was it in Lithonia or
No,
Scottsdale?
it
I
was
think
one of
it was in Scottsdale. And
yeah,
then
yeah.
they had moved it to another location. I think they moved it somewhere in Lithonia, somewhere on the east side. So, yeah, I used to go there to the classes they had the classes every Tuesday or every Wednesday or something like
Yeah.
that. It
It
was Tuesday
varied.
night.
Yeah, it varied from city to city.
Yep.
Yeah.
So okay, now let's get into the origin of the Nuwaubian Nation. What
Hmm.
were they before they became the Nuwaubian Nation?
Before they were officially called the Nuwaubian Nation, back in around 68, 69, 70, Ansar Pure Sufi. It was around 1968 that he officially had the name of the organization, the Ansar Pure Sufi. And around 1970, he officially established it as the Ansarullah community or Nubian Islamic Hebrews, which came after.
Okay. So now here's something that's very interesting about the Ansar community. I found out
Mhm.
that he got his name from the Ansar community out in Sudan because they have an
Yeah,
Ansar there, a
yeah,
Sufi
yeah,
organization, and he claimed to be a descendant of the founder of
no,
the Ansar community, right?
right, right, yes. That was one of his talking points. And that was, see, you got to understand because this is a real in depth and sometimes complicated story. So you have to be real specific because there's a tendency to veer off, and then you have to pick up on, give context to where he went in that direction. It was very elusive when it came to that. So when it came to the Ansars, he was considered the Ansars of the West. Okay, and of course the Ansars in the East would be those in Sudan. And he came up with this cockamamie story that he was a descendant of the Mahdi of Sudan, the 1845. And then he was able to, and very successfully able to, exploit the then Prime Minister of Sudan, Sayyid Sadiq. And in his publications in America, he would literally say that he was related to the Mahdi family and that Sayyid Sadiq was his actual cousin. But under the guise of the respect that and notoriety that he had acquired because of his naming his group the Ansars, because of that, Sayyid Sadiq, paid him respect for that. And it actually came down to the Ansar community about three different times. There was those those times that he visited, he wasn't actually the prime minister at the time. And so because he did that, and because York had a tendency to exploit people, just their presence alone would give the implication that they were a part of his organization or they endorsed him. Okay. So he did that on numerous occasions with Sayyid Sadiq, and of course he put those images in the publications and said Ansars from the East meets the West and all that kind of thing. And then he was eventually invited over to Sudan, and that further gave him the cred that he was a part of the Mahdi family because he took pictures with various individuals and various sites, and then he was heralded as being a part of the family. But you will never find Sayyid Sadiq claiming him to be his cousin, as he laid out in his publications. So that was one of the persons that he used to elevate his status as being something that he wasn't, meaning Malachi York.
Wow. Okay. So the question is, where is Dr. Malachi York originally from? Is
He was
he from?
originally, yeah, Boston, Massachusetts. That we do know because it's on his birth certificate. Um, I mean, you can go to my website and you can see that for what it is because it's well documented. Because you see, there's a very inconsistent story with that in regards to him. Because on one hand, he claimed that he was born in Sudan, right? He was born in Sudan, but at the time they didn't put birth certificates together like they would have today. That was one of his
Right.
talking points. And then when that was challenged, he changed it and saying that, oh, it was in the Hall of Records in Sudan, you know, and that certain individuals do have access to it. Matter of fact, he released a audio on this, and he mentioned that they have it in the Hall of Records in Sudan. But then that didn't
Wow.
pan out because there is no such thing. Because he even said that he had the original birth certificate and that he released it, but he never released it. So it wasn't until around the time that Bilal Phillips had challenged him, and Bilal Phillips put out a publication called the Ansar Cult in America, which was an expose on the organization, former members who attested
I
to
think I
various.
remember seeing it.
Exactly. And that book is what caused the shift and the change within the doctrine and the overall organization itself. Because with that, York had to change a few things around. Um, he eventually pulled away from Islam, and he spent a good 2 years going after Bilal Phillips and releasing everything on attacking Islam. And then he left Islam, put out an audio why we use Islam. It's the dumbest religion, and you can hide under. I can use this, in the vehicle to establish his cult. And it was from that point that around about 97 when we were known as Nubi, the Nuwaubian nation of Moors.
Okay, let's talk about that. The Nuwaubian Nation of
To
Moors. What
jump
is
from one stage to the next, but go ahead.
that? So the Nuwaubian Nation of Moors. Let's go into that. What's the Nuwaubian Nation of Moors?
Well, it was, see, by this time, York had already relocated the organization down to Georgia. And the property, because when we first went down there, it wasn't set up as like a Moorish thing. It was considered like Native American kind of thing. Because when we went in, one of the things that he said was that he didn't want to have a whole bunch of Negroes infesting Georgia dressed in white jalabias. So what he did was to which kind of shows his lack of research in that area. He had everybody dressed like cowboys. Yes, we would dress like cowboys. And one of the first birthday celebrations that he had down there, back then it was known as Wahani, the Golden City. And we had that quote unquote Savior's Day, and everybody, for the most part, were dressed in cowboy hats, Stetson boots, jeans, Native American style printed shirts. Because on the route to going down, when he left Brooklyn and relocated to Monticello, New York, when we would go up for the various classes, some would at 19 classes, and Savior's Day. And one of the first things that you noticed when you went through the gates in the area, when going up the mountain, it was Monticello, New York, the Catskills, and it was always gloomy and rainy. So when we went up there, at that time, everything was centered around the Nubian Hebrews, because at that time we were considered, he took the Islamic part off, and it just became Nubian Hebrews, but with a twist, because while we were wearing, because up there he unveiled the outfit that we were going to wear. No longer were we wearing the jalabias, the emma, and the whole thing. We would be wearing this Jewish style attire, which was the yarmulke or kuppah, the golden sash around the waist. It was known as a kameez, is what we wore. It had the brown, red, and green with the little hua symbol, which is supposed to be one of Allah's names. Instead of red, black, and green, it was brown, red, and green because brown was, that kind of. And so, oh, and we had the fringes at the borders of the garments with the blue, the tassel with the one blue strip. All of these things were supposed to be the way that the original Hebrews dressed as outlined in the Torah. So that was the gear that we were wearing at that time. But the brothers who were on the property at the time or who did guard, everybody was dressed in country western style clothes. And by the time 93, I think, 93, yeah, 93 came around and they relocated to Georgia, everything was centered around, wearing cowboy gear. Matter of fact, I have pictures of New York where he's got his country western hat on, Stetson hat, and the whole thing. As a matter of fact, he had when we had that land or celebration, he invited a country western singer, a black country western singer, Cleve Francis, to perform. And so we was out there, jamming to some country western music. Yeah, yeah, it's funny, but that was his strategy, because the year after that, then we started changing up and becoming a little more comfortable, and then the attire from individuals was, in addition to country western, we were still wearing various other types of garb. Yeah, because that was that year. When that year he came out, that was from some of the photos you might see online where he has his hair in a perm and his pulled back and a ponytail, and the sisters come out with their hair in perms, and he had the white outfit with the unk staff, that whole pimp style. That was the hookup that he rolled through on that first Savior's Day when we left from upstate down to Eatonton, Georgia.
Now I heard he used to be a singer.
Yeah, he did dabble into the music industry, and he did make a lot of contacts. See, this is like, again, he exploited individuals. So anyone who took a picture with him, the natural assumption was that they endorsed or supported him. As a matter of fact, to enforce that in books like Whatever Happened to the Nubian Islamic Hebrew, he has a whole section where he gives a list of entertainers that touched the garment of the master. Okay. And that was a list of anyone who at the time, especially during the 80s and the 90s, hip hop was in this reaching its zenith. And a lot of people in that whole quote unquote conscious rap at the time were gravitating to anybody who had the strongest message, be it Farrakhan or York. So when New York had his connections or made his link with the Nubian nation, I'm sorry, the Zulu nation, and then other entertainers became affiliated with the organization, De La Soul, other entertainers, James Ingram, um, India Irie, of course, musical Soul Child. I mean, it's
Oh yeah, I heard Music Soul Child was somebody told me. Well, there was a brother a long time ago who I knew, he had passed away. But he was an elder, but he was telling me about Music Soul Child and India Arie being a part of the nation at one point.
yes, yeah. As a matter of fact, in Philadelphia, that's where Music Soul was from. He was a part of that community there. I did an article on this. It was a whole bunch of entertainers that you see him taking pictures with. Delph. As a matter of fact, when he went on tour in London, he was touring with the Delphonics and Blue Magic. When he opened up Ramesses Dance Club on Tamaray, that opening night, one of the performers was Blue Magic. Yeah, Blue Magic. What's her name? What's that girl? She's played with. She passed away. The three girls. I can't remember their name right now. Left Eye Lopez. She would come there. Erica Badu. I mean, I can give you a whole list of people that York maybe not so much. They didn't necessarily gravitate towards the doctrine, but they saw that with the pyramids and the whole thing with the land in Georgia, that was something that everybody wanted to be a part of, or say, "Oh, I'm down with them," or "I need them," because there hadn't been any issues with York other than what was going on back in the late '90s. I mean, late '80s in New York. So he had developed a strong following in the entertainment industry. So you can see pictures with he and Russell Simmons, Infume, and one video he did, "It's on Me." You see a couple of members from Delphonics there. I talked to a couple of the guys when we would have service day. They would be there. Um, my God, I could think of so many people. D
Wow.
Wiz, who is the DJ of Salt and Pepper, he was there. The guys from you got Morpheus. You see sometimes on Garfield's or Sonetta's channel. Morpheus, he was a member of Force MDs, and Force MDs, of course, were Ansar. So York had a recording studio back in New York called York Studio or York Records. And by the time we got down to Georgia, he changed the name from York Records to Hathor Records. So he did have a recording studio, and he did produce people like Africa Bambaata's Planet Rock album.
He did?
Yeah. Or remixed it. Yeah. So because Africa Bambaataa did, took their Shahada. By that time, we were still Ansars, and some of the guys became Muslim. And they took their Shahada in Bushwick Avenue. I think it was Daddy O from Stetsasonic that actually introduced Bambaataa and York. Yeah, so that was how that thing started off.
Oh,
So
wow.
he had some good music. I mean, for the most part, it was a flop. But there were a couple of songs that were popular that people say, "Oh, that's good," but that was about it. Now, I think one of them was "It's on Me," and I can't remember them things because it's so old. But yeah, the music
Wow.
was something that was short lived. It was short lived, but he did leave some kind of impression that people like James Ingram would come down on Savior's Day and perform along with Jimmy Cliff. And I think it was James Ingram. Again, I mean, it makes you think because you say, well, damn, James Ingram was so successful, hit after hit. And then he did Secret Garden. He had Barry White. Oh man, I would have got James Ingram, Barry White. I can't remember them doggone guys. The
He
guy,
had everybody pretty much.
Elder Barge, all of these guys, James Ingram tried to proselytize York's doctrine to. When we were at the second Million Man March, James was there, and he made it a point to bring us as closest to the stage as possible. Because prior to that, we didn't go because York said, "Don't be a part of it," the Million Man March thing. But when we started seeing more and more people there, York was like, "Okay, go down," and he gave us a call. Say, "Go down and show your face, show the flag or something."
Wow, that's a lot. So now, I know he had bookstores, right? Now someone was telling me that he had a bookstore in downtown, like near downtown Atlanta, somewhere. Uh,
Um,
on the
yes,
east.
we have bookstores that were in I didn't really go down to Atlanta. Maybe
Oh,
once I went because we were working on the pyramids there. I think we stayed in on Edgewood Avenue someplace.
oh
And one
yeah,
of
yeah, on
because
Edgewood, yeah.
he did have an apartment. He had at that time they had taken over an apartment complex, which was he became a slumlord there. Yeah, it was called What was it called? Nuwaubians Gardens, something like that. Yeah,
Wow, this is something new to me. I didn't know he had an apartment complex.
yeah, it was down there. It's a lot of the members resided there.
Oh,
And
okay.
I forget the
So,
name, but I know it was Garden something. Yeah.
all right. So now let's talk about when you guys had moved to Eatonton, Georgia, correct? Was it
Hmm.
Eatonton? Yes.
Yeah.
So you guys moved down there. And what year was that when you guys moved to that town?
Um, well, they had relocated because see, it was all building up. because when we were leaving, when the organization was making this transition from upstate to Georgia, it was partly under the guise that that was going to be the new Atlantis, and he was moving the teachers into a new format, which was going to be a bunch of younger people, not the old guys. So he established something called the Young Disciples, who were supposed to be students, kids from 18. There was an age limit, I think it was 18 to 20 something, and they were to be groomed and taught directly mouth to ear by York. And these were going to be some of his elite teachers that were going to go forth and take the doctrine to areas that probably had never been taken before. So that was one of the angles that he used to justify or make the claim that why we're moving from upstate down to Georgia. So there was a bunch of different reasons, but that was around 1993. And then 94, 5, 6, around 5, 6, and 7, that was during that period when it started moving from uh, that doctrine he was promoting, which was bits and pieces of Zechariah Sitchin's teachings. And because it was prominent at that time with the whole Earth Chronicle series, so York was parroting everything that Sitchin taught, only altering different portions of it and kind of coloring everybody chocolate.
Oh, okay, wow. So how many acres of land was Tom Ray sitting on? How many acres of land did he have?
He had a s- I guess that so long since I even talked about this. He had it was actually 19 acres that I'm sorry, edifices and the different uh, sites where pyramids and the housing. It was about 19 acres that he actually was building on, but he had a total of, I think it was 76 acres of land there.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty big. It had a lake and everything. It was big. Even upstate New York, the property in Monticello was huge. As a matter of fact, that too had a lake. And it was just, as far as you saw, it was green. It was beautiful upstate, but it was always raining and
Mm.
cold. And that was one of the reasons why he would tell us in some of the classes that it's too cold and they're going to go down to a more um, conducive environment. And then he had to come up with a good gimmick, and one of the gimmicks was that that was the place of the original Native American, Black Native Americans, the Yamasee. Yes. Now we know in 2021 that that whole idea was a fallacy because initially when we were upstate, we were considered Native Americans as well because he had when you would come up there, you would see the sign that says you're entering native land.
That was a Yamanasi and Wichita or Wichita, something like that.
No, Yamasee,
Yamasee, okay.
the Yamasee. Um, but that name didn't come about until later on, around 95, 6, and 7, because of his affiliation with the Moors there, the Empress Veneradachi Gostin El Bey, and her teachings of the return of the Moors. York had started embracing her teachings and philosophies based on the white supremacist ex-Nazi Joseph William. I cannot remember this guy. I'm gonna find it before because I had brought it up in another show. Um, there was a white supremacist, a neo-Nazi, who was kicked out of the neo-Nazi movement because he sexually molested boys within that group. And he was arrested, went to prison, and then when he left, when he was released, he started actually writing in the in prison. And so by the time he came out, he had invested his time and energy into publicizing different books. And ironically, it just happened to be books about the original Black Native Americans here, blah, 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 blah. And the Empress Veneradachi because they were in Georgia, and he was saying like the original mound builders and all these people. He was teaching that stuff. And then she invited him down to one of her lectures where he lectured in front of the Moors there, and the Nuwaubians were there taking notes. Yep.
Wow. Okay, what was the guy's name again?
I can't remember. I'm doing an article on him, but I didn't finish it. So, like I said, I'm in the process of moving. Let me see if I can pull it up. Because that name, once you see the name, I'll share my screen if I can. I've never used screen.
Oh yeah, you can share your screen. It's a share button at the bottom of your screen.
All right. As soon as I'm able to pull that up, I'll give you the name, and then anybody can really go into it. But he was it was during that time that he and believe it or not, even the Black Pyramid, which had this labyrinth where you go around it and the different points, the Al-Mughadaj, which is supposed to have been some ancient Egyptian thing, but it was patterned after one of the illustrations that this guy one of the artworks that he used, which was supposed to have been his rendition of what Atlantis looked like. Yeah. Oh, here it is. All right, I found it. Okay. So his name was. Hold on, let me make this large. Okay. Oh, his name is Frank Collins. That was his name. I think his pen name was Frank Collins. Frank Collins he was a white supremacist, part of the white supremacist organization, National Socialist White People's Party. That was the organization. So Verdidachi introduced him to her congregation. His name was Frank Joseph. So it says, quote, "We will hear from Mr. Frank Joseph. The magazines that I've been actually peddling to you without authority. He is the editor of Ancient America magazine, all the way from Wisconsin to visit with you." I'm imitating, I'm kind of mocking what she sounded. "I'm not supposed to say things because he can stop me from saying it. But since it's about our culture, I'm telling you to sell them, buy them, and give them away. Frank Joseph, give him a hand." And then this white supremacist gets up
Sell them, buy them, and give them away.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me try to share this.
Wow.
Give me a second.
Wow.
Where are you? Oh, all right. All right. Okay. Let me see. Share screen. Oh, there it is. Ooh. All right. Let me see if I can find it. Hold on a second. Green screen. All right. Let me try it again. I'm having problems trying to even share. Oh, there we go. Let me see if I can pull it up so I can share this with you, because it's relative to what we're discussing here. Okay. So, do you see it?
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, hold on. Give me a second. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Take your time.
Okay. Why is it not sharing? Oh, there it is. Okay. Do you see?
All right.
Give me a second. 1 second. Any minute now.
Okay.
Okay, do you see it?
All right, I remember this lady. Yeah, now I remember. That's the lady. Yeah, she the one that got the Wichita organization, right? Yes.
And it was this lady who, York tried to affiliate himself with and he started teaching much of what she was advocating, and that was due in part to this individual, Frank Joseph. This is the guy who taught the doctrine of the Washita original mound builders and all that stuff that she was promoting at the time. Yeah, I hadn't. This article's not finished, so I'm actually showing you, my website, and here's something in the raw form. Actually, the Nuwaubians did Malachi York magnify and promote neo-Nazi propaganda.
Wow.
So
So he was in cool. Wow. So he actually linked up with this guy to get some information about the Black Native Americans.
Yeah, because that was part of their doctrine, being the original mound builders, Moors, et cetera, et cetera. So what York did was he laid claim to being the Yamasee. Okay, saying that we were the original Yamasee, but in upstate New York, we weren't known as Massey. We were referred to as the Shoshone Native. I'm sorry, the Shoshone Nubian tribes. Yes, the Shoshone, which are a people of the lower plains in the west, in Pacific Northwest, the people that we generally associate with the image of what a Native American looks like. They were known as a Shoshone. But he added the Shoshone Nubian tribes, only because different groups he would invite up to the property to perform. So York was very skillful in exploiting people to give the impression that they were with him. So when he would invite different Native Americans for a powwow, the implication was, oh, he's down with York, or they're down, or they're in some way affiliated. He's been doing this forever. He did that to politicians, entertainers. He's done that to everybody. Give me another example. There was a voter registration drive that was going on in Georgia around 2001, and York had invited Jesse Jackson and his Rainbow Push organization to go and sign people up for voting. And the voter registration was set up on Tamaray. So York had made it a major celebration that Jesse Jackson was coming down. Al Sharpton came as well over time. And at that time, we were pretending to be Freemasons and the whole regalia and all this, real elaborate stuff. So you had all these brothers that were dressed as either Masons, Shriners, Knights of Columbus. Anyway, all these different fraternal orders. We were, because you can go and buy the outfits. That ain't a problem. But by the time Jesse Jackson and them came down, and Jesse had spoke, and his entourage, they were trying to sign people up for voter registration, and there was an incident where Jesse Jackson, who didn't wear, by that time we had the black fezzes with the unk in the center, with the little, stuff around it. They wanted Jesse to put it on. And, Jesse, he's a media magnet, so he knows how to play it. But he also probably, figured that York was trying to use it for something else. So he would grab the crown and he would pretend like he was going to put it on, and then he didn't put it on. But what had happened was the publication, a newsletter that came out, the Nuwaubian newsletter, had a Photoshop of Jesse Jackson wearing the crown, the Nuwaubian fez, given the implication, even literally saying Jesse Jackson being a Nuwaubian. Yeah.
Wow, that's so interesting now. That's interesting. He tried to convince Jesse Jackson to become a Nuwaubian, and Jesse Jackson wasn't going for it.
Here's the thing. York never came out. York did not come out because York had made some disparaging statements about Jesse Jackson years prior. saying that he was, implicated in the assassination of Martin Luther King. So, um, but that whatever it didn't seem to matter because he was trying to build a legitimacy for himself because he was saying that if we're Freemasons, we can't be labeled a cult because everybody, the doctors are Freemasons, politicians, lawyers, you know. So if we are Masons, how can we be labeled a cult? And that was always his thing. He hated the idea of being connected or labeled a cult. So he would use trick language or play word games. Say, "Oh yeah, we're a culture." So your word cult because cult means culture. Eliminating what we know because words and groups of words have changed and evolved over time and have different meanings and connotations. Forget about that. He's just saying that a cult means culture. And so when you're a culture, you're a religious cult with a very strange culture, some people would say. And so that was one of his things for us to always say if someone tried to label us a cult. But then he would use the same connotation of what a cult is as having a flamboyant character that the organizational group adheres to and holds so sacred that he's considered their God. So he would use that in reference to other people, but not when it came to him. Yeah. So we're jumping all over the place, but I'm just giving you a quick overview in different stages of how the organization metamorphosized and the different ways that York was able to try to build his notoriety without coming off as being some type of weirdo.
Wow. Now, I got plenty of books. I got plenty of books right here. So now, and I have a newspaper. It's an old newspaper. It's the Nuwaubian Morris newsletter. Are you familiar with this?
I used to sell them. Yep.
Yeah. So this one says, "Who are the real mulattoes?"
Yeah, I remember that one. That's a classic.
It's a classic. Okay, so what do you remember most about this one? Let's talk a little bit about this one. What do you remember the most?
Oh, I remember. Well, for one, on the cover you got Timothy McVeigh, and it was shortly after that time when that Oklahoma City situation had occurred. In that newsletter, they center around a lot of the alleged documentation of the original Moors and Native Americans as being "quote unquote" black, and that was during that same time that he was had his affiliation with Verdidachi, the Empress. And it was also during this time that he was trying to connect his own bloodline to not only Native Americans, but specifically with what was her name? She was in the book on the first page of the Black Indians book. Diana Fletcher. Her name was Diana Fletcher. York was trying, because when I and another individual were told to go down to the National Archives in Washington, D.C. to pull up his family line by name, various names we're supposed to look up and find the connection between he and that being in his family. So Diana Fletcher was supposed to, according to him, was supposed to have been one of his aunts. No, it didn't happen. Wasn't true. So I had to report to him that no, we couldn't find any Native American ancestry with the York name, and he wasn't too happy about that. So what had happened was he would release further publications like "Let's Set the Record Straight," which was all supposed to be a who's who in America or around the world of Black people and their origins. And so those publications, those little newsletters, there was a bunch of them. Ben York, because York was pushing the narrative that he was related to Ben York of the Lewis and Clark expedition. This didn't start back in the latter part of the 90s. This happened in upstate New York. because when we went upstate, you would see the statue of Ben York that York had, was made of plaster that he had made or had it um, crafted. And then one of the catchphrases, we had T-shirts and the mantras, which was "kin to Ben York." Because the name York was there, naturally it had to have been him, his family line. That was never established as being factual. And even when I saw the family tree, Ben York is not there.
Wow. Wow. So
Yeah.
I see this picture of Dr. York right here in his little
Hmm.
Native American garb.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was
You say
that
he's
was
the chief.
yeah, Chief Black Eagle. And I always tell people when I was working at WOL in DC, there was only one Black Eagle because he had the name the Black Eagle before York, and that was Joe Madison.
Joe
He's married.
Madison. Okay.
Joe Madison was even today on XM satellite radio. He still goes by that name, the Black Eagle. That was my man. So I was always like, damn. So he's calling himself the Black Eagle now, and I never mentioned it to Joe, but he would listen to some of the shows that I would call in and attack people, and then I would use that term, the Black Eagle, but not mention Joe Madison, which pissed off Captain Hughes, but that's a whole nother story.
Wow. I didn't even. Wow, that's interesting that you work with Miss Kathy Hughes. How was it like working with her?
Well, I didn't work directly with her, but she owned the radio station, and by that time she was buying up other radio stations, and I did meet her, of course, because when anyone who had a show, because you could buy time on the show, you could buy time on the radio to have your own program. So at that time, York had asked me to start a radio show because I was calling in night after night on the Mo Better Man show, which was a 8 hour, 6 hour phone in show where anybody could call in and argue about religion. And because I was doing it and I became very proficient with it, I was debating, if you will, different preachers, reverends, and it became one individual, a guy named Rick. We would go at it every night, and it became almost epic because he was sharp, and I was using the Nuwaubian doctrine to go after this guy and show him the fallacies of Christianity. And York he was so proud of that. And what was going on at the time with the zoning issues in Georgia and the troubles he was having with the sheriff, the sisters would call me and tell me that, like Habib would call, she would say that Baba is so happy with what you're doing because with all that's going on down here, he gets a big laugh out of the way you beat up on Rick, and you know, it was during that period that we kind of got close. He would call, he would send books. I would proofread some of the books before they were ever released, if they were, because some never even came out. Because his thing was, I'm gonna give you all the ammo that you want to need when you battle these guys on the show. And then he said, let's stop promoting their show. Let's get our own radio show in DC. And so, at the time, I had to tap two other guys to become part of it, and we were to be the triad of Atum Ray in the North. Yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm. So,
So,
and to make it a long story short, we would sit down on a Saturday and discuss, promotions and how if you have a show, what you have to do to promote it, and then you have to do a 10-second promo for the show because you need to, elevate your program, blah blah blah. Because at that time she was really becoming. This was before she had got linked up with XM, you know. And so at that time we were still just in the market of the Baltimore, DC, Maryland, Virginia, and that surrounding area. And we just needed to. So that was my one time meeting her and having a chance to talk with her.
oh wow. So now let's talk about these publication.
Hmm.
All these books that he written, the pamphlet. So I got a couple of pamphlets. I got the one called "The Revelation of the Nuwaubians, Patara the Way."
Hmm.
All
Yeah.
right, I got this, and then I got this one is called "The Revelation of the Nuwaubian Patara the Way."
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
where is it? Pa Masul and Anunubi Rapata the Jetty. I'm
Hey,
I'm
look,
not.
a lot
And
of those.
let's talk about this handwriting, the language. Now,
Yeah.
what about the language that he spoke? It's
Okay.
supposed.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, the language thing has always been something of an evolving story because York wanted to be a step above everybody else, and one of the routes was to have a language or at least speak Arabic. All right, and then we would he would see. Here's the thing: he would take something like a dialect of a language and then promote it as being an ancient language. So you had one that was like I say, a Sudanese language or a dialect, which was Nubic. It was called Nubic, and he released a book on Nubic. The whole Nuwaubian language itself didn't evolve until it came out of Arabic, because the children who were taught Arabic, because the children in New York were taught Arabic by people from Morocco or Sudan and different places. They were paid to come in and teach them the language. So being born Americans, they developed their own lingo of Arabic. And as they started speaking their own version of it, York got wing of it and listened to it. And he, over time, decided to release a publication about this language and said that he created his own language, which was called Nuwabic. But he had
Oh,
different claims to it. One, it was the language of the extraterrestrials from Risk. Nuwapic was the language that the Anunnaki taught the Sumerians. Then there was another version of Nuwapic, which was the language that the Neteru taught the Egyptians. You see, so you had different dialects because some of them was in it was in Orion, and then they came down here. The others were in Aldebaran, and so over time, you'll notice that the Nuwaubian script had changed, even down to the point where it started to look very curiously similar to Sanskrit. Yeah. And so they started developing new words, and he started putting all kinds of words. Because you'll find in the Nuwapic teacher's guide, if you go through the vocabulary, you'll see words that are from French, German, Spanish. You'll find some Yiddish words. You'll find, African dialects, and you might find a few Akkadian words. You know, so what you have on that cover there, that's one of the beautiful illustrations that someone came up with, and that's supposed to be their new script. And it's in Napata, in the language of the people of Mero, the original Nubians of Sudan, and Mero. you know. So all of that stuff is part of its appeal to people that hadn't done extensive research in that area. So anybody looking at it, they'll see that that whole Sabian language, that's nothing but Arabic.
mm,
You know, these are
wow.
early. These are people in that region who spoke an Arabic language or a version of it. So um, New Wapic is essentially corrupted Arabic that over the years, new words it had become innovated to come and sound like something else.
Wow.
Uh, to put it in a nutshell, I always like to say that Nuwaubic is a Khan language. And a Khan language is a self or a language created in modern times, just like Klingon language. You know, if you ever talk to a Trekkie, someone who's a real strong Star Trek nerd, the Klingon language has conjugations, verbs, vowels, um, uh, an entire grammatical library, and they speak it. You know, and that is a Khan language. People say, well, it's not from some planet, another planet. It's from here, and the same thing is with the Wapit,
Mm.
but the root is Arabic.
Oh, okay. I kind of figured it because it has some type of like when they speak it, like you can hear the Arabic sound in it. Because I used to practice Islam growing up, so yeah. So
Hmm.
I was around people that spoke Arabic, and
Yeah,
so when you hear them when you hear the Arab when you hear the Nuwaubians communicate with each other in their little language, because I have heard them communicate with each other, it
yeah,
sounds like some form of Arabic or broken
yeah.
Arabic.
Yeah. Now this was brought up in at the trial as well. Nikki Lopez had mentioned it when they wanted some insight into, what was taking place in upstate New York, and then she was mentioning at that time how we were moving from the Islamic doctrine into this Jewish or Hebrew thing. And in the course of that, the language that the children were speaking that left from Brooklyn, some of the selected children, they were um, they were still speaking that version of Arabic. They knew Arabic itself, but they also relied when they would communicate amongst themselves their own version of Arabic. Just like guys in the community when in debate, because brothers who were American born were taught to speak Arabic or at least try to. We started developing our own little versions of it, and it got so crazy that we used to joke about it, call it English bit. It was Arabic and English, so yeah, English bit.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and see now I see he wrote these books. Are you familiar with these books right here? Does God need
I'm familiar with all the books. I had a
uh,
bookstore that could push this stuff. Yes,
Halloween,
Halloween, the
the
evil
one?
one, Sabbath. Yeah. What about it?
Oh, okay. So now well I just what is your thoughts on these books? Does God need love? What was the first thing that came to your mind when you heard of this book right here? Does God need
Well, for
love?
one, I never liked them. I never liked that series. You know why?
Why?
Because I was always into the flamboyant covers. I always liked the real pretty covers. So when they have these little cheap looking books, I was mad because everybody wanted to buy them because it was just some controversial line, and you had to try to push the book. So you said, what was the name of that book? Does God need love? Right. So
Yeah.
you had to be on the street and you had to try to people see because you had a whole bunch of them. They were $5, free will offering. They had a whole bunch of them. You lay them out on the table, and then people come by. Is God a wimp? Does God need love? Whose God is responsible? All these things were designed to stimulate conversation. And in that conversation, you have about 5 minutes to have a bill, and then hopefully that person will buy the book.
Mm.
So those books was part of what was called the God series, and he came off as being a quote unquote atheist.
A
Yeah,
quote unquote what?
an atheist. An atheos is what he said. Yes,
Hmm.
because within the teachings, he's going after the Bible God, the Quran God, the Hebrew God. Hey, baby.
Right.
Yep.
Wow.
And that's because see, not only are those little small publications, but also it moved to larger books, which was part of the quote unquote um, um, Supreme Mathematics series, which was um, just God. No, what's it called? I can't remember some of them. Is your God? Oh, is God an extraterrestrial? Is one of them. There was a whole bunch of those books that started going into that stuff. So the Supreme Mathematics series were more expensive books, but they were supposed to be on another level. So you're attacking the Bible God by showing what was considered common sense, practical thinking, right knowledge, the science of Nuwaubians, where you had three tests: evidence, experience, and reason. So you apply those three tests to the Bible, Quran, or Torah, and if it cannot withstand those three tests, then get rid of it.
Dang,
That was
he.
really thought. So when people come around now and they start applying that to the doctrine of Nuwapic or Nuwapo or Nuwabu, or the Nuwaubian doctrine, then you're a slanderer. And I'm proud to be one.
Wow.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
so
that was one of the that was a period where he was trying to he was then reconstructing himself in the organization, because that was on the heels of when he left upstate New York and was down in Georgia, and we started moving this new doctrine.
okay, and so now this book right here is called "The Lost Records of Time." If you can
Hmm.
see it,
Hmm.
yeah. So actual fact number 20.
Hmm.
All right, and
A
then
lot of those, a lot of those books, a lot of what's considered in those books were letters
this
that
one
you.
baffles me right here: the Egyptian ontology or mythology. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, because like that, I haven't even seen, read, nor got interested, because after York was cut off from um, writing letters, members within the organization started putting things together themselves, and then York will give the green light, and next thing you know, you have a new series or lines of books that are written by ghostwriters, but attributed to York, because that was part of the hustle, which was making money off of literature. But in the earlier days, they were just a combination of various letters that York wrote to different people, and then the office would transfer those letters over into book form, or connect them with previous writings and try to fill in gaps of things that he said before that he may not have elaborated on, but then he's given a little more insight into it. Then this becomes something else that he really wanted to give.
And so, last but not least, but this is the most popular one: 360 questions to ask the Hebrew Israelites.
Hmm. Yeah, that book was that book became popular because the Israeli Church of Universal Practical Knowledge started really irritating York in New York by coming down and questioning the students there. So I think it's really kind of disingenuous, because the implication there is that that four-part series was geared towards the Israeli church, but by the name Hebrew Israelite, it was more centered on Ben Ami Ben Israel's organization. You know,
Oh,
the guys in Demona, Israel.
yeah. So, what's the story about him and Benjamin?
Well, see, York, I don't know. I mean, I can't speak for his mind completely, but he had a problem with certain other charismatic teachers. Yahweh ben Yahweh. He would always mock Yahweh ben Yahweh because Yahweh ben Yahweh went to prison. He would make fun of him, saying that, oh, here's this delusional Negro who thinks he's the son of Yahweh. Now, when people made fun of York and said, oh, look at this clown who's in prison who thought he was Anu's grandson.
Mm.
No,
Oh,
it ain't right.
wow.
So Ben Ami Ben Israel, um, with his organization in Demona, Israel, I mean, they see, when my dealings with them, they never ever came off aggressive. There were some good brothers and sisters that I met when I was in DC. Matter of fact, they had a health market. It was like a Whole Food style market, but it was run by the Hebrew Israelites there. And you would go up to them and you want to attack them with the books. Oh, y'all teach that, and they were like, "Hey, brother, it is what it is. Wow. What can I do? Would you like some carrot cake, something like that? They would
Now
they
that
wouldn't
got
even
some
they
good
wouldn't even
food.
they wouldn't even entertain it. So it wasn't until the sister in Brooklyn, Sakina, who was having problems with the Israeli church, that York felt the need to release another one, which was 360 questions to ask the Israeli church, which was a thicker book.
Oh,
And that publication she was supposed to use to go after them, you know. So it was stylized.
wow.
It was stylized in the same format of 360 questions to ask the Orthodox Sunni Muslims.
Hmm.
And so,
Wow.
as an irony, my website, Nuwaubianism.com, is patterned just after the way York did it. 360 questions to ask the Nuwaubians. So I did it exactly the way he did it.
Yeah. So now let's get to the deeper part of this. So now that your guy's the pyramid and he's a Nuwaubian nation, um, all of a sudden the FBI comes into the picture. Now the FBI comes into the picture. Um, there's allegations. There's charges being brought up against him about frauds, um, sexual abuse, uh, domestic abuse, all these different things. So let's go into that.
Hmm. What about it?
Let's start with the whole. Let's start with the fraud situation when he was accused of fraudulent and stuff.
Fraudulent? What do you mean?
Yeah, or like I know that he was there were people saying he was scamming and
Look, I'm being facetious. Listen, York had been a, a career con man since the 1970s.
mhm.
Okay? He was a hustler. He was a criminal. This is well known. He would fabricate, falsify. He was arrested for falsifying government documents to get a fake passport, to get a fake name, Al Mahdi, so that he can have the name Mahdi on his name by the time the 360 questions after Muslims come out. So he was well known as being a fraud. Yes, that is true. That is well documented. But see,
Ooh, okay.
it's not a thing is where the FBI came down on him out of nowhere. They no, they see now they kind of, and this is in the various reports on York, that when you do the research into what the FBI had as a file on him, is that they didn't even want to deal with him because it was right on the heels of that whole coming out of the black experience in 1960s and the COINTELPRO, and they didn't want to come off as being one of those type of issues again. So York kind of was given a little pass for a long, long time.
Wow.
Very because even Ed Koch had awarded York a citizen award for cleaning up one of the boroughs in Brooklyn, which was that strip of that drug strip in Brooklyn, Bushwick Avenue, because that was run by I think that was run by the Gambinos at the time. I do know that,
The
and
Gambinos.
yeah,
Who were the
um,
Gambinos?
that was the Italians who were pushing the drug trade in Brooklyn.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so, whatever deal may have been made, because you don't destroy a network that's run by the Gambinos at the time, especially when you had the Mayo crew running around in New York at the time. That's the murder machine. Them guys were responsible for about 300 murders in New York. Yeah, the murder machine, Roy DeMeo. But that's a whole nother story. But I deal with organized crime thing as well. So, so, where was I? Where was I? I lost my.
So you was saying that he
Oh,
was a biggest con artist. He was well
yeah,
known for that, and
yeah.
the FBI let him off the hook for a
For
long
a long
time.
time. And it wasn't you see, this is what, and because of this whole polite situation that's going on, what
Yeah.
I had, because I've been really pushing, but people were talking about the comparison between New York and polite and all that stuff. My focus was more on getting more attention on, the ringleader, which was York. And one of the things that I had indicated was that just recently that all that was going on with the child molestations taking place in Georgia, it was certain victims and a couple of sisters who were there who started writing letters to the media and to the law enforcement officials in the area, in local law enforcement agencies, and having them to come out and investigate what is going on there. That's what that was all about. That was how they got involved. So it wasn't like they had been chasing them. They didn't start getting involved in any way until they looked at the issues from upstate New York and Georgia and the various trips New York was making to Disney World. Because transporting a minor across state lines for the purpose of illegal sex, that becomes a federal issue. And so the investigation stemmed from there, where they started looking into his travels to different cities with listed victims, and some of the sex act that took place in that city, all of that became part of the investigation under the Mann Act. Yep. And so, in a nutshell, it wasn't the white man that came after him; it was those concerned family members within the organization that started putting the word out, even putting emails out. Now, around 2001 was when this stuff was coming out, and York he was definitely aware of it, and expected his demise to be imminent, which kind of makes you wonder, could be true, maybe, maybe not. But during that period, York started reverting back to this whole Christian thing and started advocating, magnifying, and promoting Jesus Christ of 2,000 years ago as being our Lord and Savior. Yeah, me say, what? Yes. Because with all of the books that had come down that was attacking Christianity, Jesus, and all this other stuff, and religion in general, now there's something wrong. We got to go back to that. And then York, of course, being the magic man, he started giving lectures attacking people who were saying that something is wrong with that. Then he said, I knew what I was saying in Christianity. He released an audio called, "You Want to Question Me, and I Taught You." On that audio, he's blasting Nuwaubians or anybody that doesn't want to get on board with his new position on Christianity, and that Jesus being our Lord and Savior. Because he said that he had this revelation or this epiphany when he was watching the Word channel on a local station in Georgia, and where he was watching this preacher talking, and then the preacher stopped and looked at the camera and said, "I'm talking to you, Malachi." And he claimed that was what sparked his he's talking to my soul. That's God talking to my heart. And from that point on, he starts elaborating on Christianity and how Jesus of 2,000 years ago, he's real. And then you see billboards going up in Georgia of Jesus. He's real. Holy Seed Baptist Synagogue. The Egyptian Church of Christ. These were new doctrines within the Nuwaubian doctrine that was focused on Christianity being real, contradicting what he had previously written and spoke about for decades. But he was successful in spinning and convincing these people who wanted to believe anything York would say and say, "Oh, those were all schools." The school of Christianity, the school of Islam, the school of Judaism, the UFO school. All these are supposed to be schools. So in saying that, he's then able to, in their minds, convince them that, oh, it's not a lie. It's only true within those schools. Once you're outside of those schools, then it's not true. But in the school, it's true. So whatever I taught in the school, it was true. So people
Wow.
were perplexed and scratching their head. Well, are we going back to school? Are we going back into Christianity? You got to be past that school. But York's remedy was that Jesus is real because he's my heart. And what's wrong with accepting the Lord Jesus Christ as your personal Savior? So he take off the own chant coming off of the black pyramid or the mirror and start having Jesus songs go out. He would blast a song from Zap, Roger Troutman, we're talking about Jesus. Oh yeah. So he just started losing his credibility for a lot of people, but people who were the diehard members, you know, they didn't have anything else going for them in life, so they're just going to stick around. And those are the people
Wow.
who
So
stick.
at that point, the people started to become a little confused. They're like, okay, which way do we go? Do we go here? Do we go there? Where are you
Yeah,
trying to take us?
yeah, that
So
was always the thing. Where are you taking us? Where do we go from here? And there was no direction. Because remember, York, I don't know if you remember, but York always said, there will come a time when there will be no guidance. No
wow.
guidance. Yeah. And he said,
Wow.
no matter what they have on me, you cling to the doctrine. Whatever they have on me in video, you cling to the doctrine. Now that you look at the doctrine, you see that it's absolutely pseudo. What is there left? It's like salt without any flavor. So that was what everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people just went along with it, because when you listen to those audio, the last audio that York released prior to his arrest was on the cover. It had an infant with a head shaped like a falcon, like a horse. I forget what it's called, but it was the last audio. And all there you hear the cheerleaders in the background, yeah, clapping anything he had to say that was in advocation for Christianity or Jesus or the Bible. You see, so academics never took York serious, because anybody can pick
I
up
bet they
anybody
did.
can pick up a book now and you can look at it and say, this guy's not an intellectual. What is he? No, I mean, I studied Sumerian language, history, and culture. Okay. So I can look at the books now and reading what he has as Sumerian or cuneiform, he said this is not at all, and it's definitely not what he's saying. But then it's all attributed to Zechariah Sitchin, because he was so lazy with this stuff, because during that period from 93 to about 95, he was pushing this whole Sumerian doctrine, as they call it, Anunnakism, the Marduk, Inky, and all that kind of stuff. And even on that audio, you want to question me and I taught you, he says that since y'all was all this and that about Inky, Inla, and all that, I knew what I was talking about. You was all, pumping yourself up with all this Egyptian stuff. You know, I came to the conclusion that, once you got all that stuff and you're done with that, what's more important? Talking about your salvation, just knowing history. But if you listen to the audio, you want to question me and I taught you, you'll hear York talk about Christianity and demonize Egypt, Sumerians, or anything other than Lord Jesus Christ.
Whoa, that's strange. Now I want to get back to the whole rape charges. It was said to be that he not only violated young girls, but it was also boys as well. Is that
Yeah,
true?
yes, absolutely. I don't know. You must not have read any of the trial. Well, I don't know what your extent of research.
Um, I've read some of it, but I didn't read all of it.
Okay. I'll supply you with something that will give you that'll put you in the courtroom. Let's put it that way, because the sealed transcripts are no longer sealed, but you have to go through a process in order to obtain them, and they're not cheap.
Ooh.
and that's through power of attorney and all this other stuff. But I have some of them, and you could be in the courtroom sitting as a juror, and you decide from what you hear in the testimony and the evidence that's brought out against York. So yes, there were boys involved. Tariq Noel, Salam LaRoche. Um, I'm not going to mention some names because they didn't like the idea that I put them in the article. Um, but these people testified against York, these males, and they were very vivid and very detailed, and it corroborated with not only other testimonies, but also the evidence that was collected. Yeah,
Mm.
and because one, Salam LaRoche had was asked by the lead prosecutor um, at the time, Moultrie, was asking him, "Did York ever tell you why he was molesting you?" And he went on to explain that um, he said that it wasn't gay, but that it was what the Egyptian gods they used to do. They used to have sex with each other. Now we know that to be something that York has said publicly because there's an audio called "Sex, Music," something like that. There's an article on the website where I have the transcripts of an audio where he's given a lecture talking about some weird sex ritual that the ancient Egyptians practiced, which he offers no evidence for. He cites no textual documentation, but it's off what he says. And he talks about how, and maybe I should pull up. He talks about how, um, as a part of the loyalty to the pharaoh, that these priests would straddle the pharaoh. He would ejaculate in them, and then they would go off and establish other kingdoms sharing the same ritual. And he says that this is why you don't see the Catholic priests, the pastors, or whatever they call themselves, being arrested because all of them, the popes, they're enacting the ritual of the hat.
Mm.
Yeah. So I
Wow.
have
So he used that as a justification to violate little children.
yes, that was his justification because it was a ritual, and it's not gay, according to him. According to him, he's saying, "Listen, you don't have to be gay." So when they start to get really in great detail about what took place, York always made certain that he would have an adult present to participate, to get it started, so that they would incriminate themselves, so that if they were to speak on it, they would be implicated in the act also. So if I go down, you go down. He did that in every instance. That was the running theme. It was always people participating in the sex act with him. When he molested Habiba at age 13, she gave a very riveting narration of what took place. He came from behind the curtain with a long jalabia with no underwear on, and there was a girl who who was grooming Habiba, and she performed fellatio on York and said, "This is how you're supposed to please the man that you are going to marry." That was what it was all about. That was the game, and that was the excuse that they used, that the girl that was grooming the new recruit into the sex circle, they would groom other girls and bring them in. And it was a revolving door of girl after girl, boy after boy that York would molest. But he had to be very strategic about it because some children had a tendency to run their mouths. And one girl had York very nervous, who's a friend of mine, and I'm not gonna put her whole name out because she goes by a different name on Facebook. But one girl who uh, in the testimony, she mooned York and she's in a couple of books that a couple of sisters I know wrote books on this. That she had the tendency to blurt out stuff that she shouldn't, and at times she would blurt out stuff that New York was doing. So when she was upstate, there was a list of names of people that were going to go down to Georgia first on the property. And it had to be those listed victims, and particularly that girl, Crystal. She was going to be the one they're going to make sure we got to keep an eye on her because she's a loose cannon. She's a wild one, according to New York, according to those who gave testimony about that. And they gave vivid detail of what they saw and what their role was in the sex act. Even York's live-in lover at the time, which they called his main wife, she apologized on behalf of the victims that her role in grooming and bringing girls or boys to York for molestation, she apologized to them in her book, The Main Wife, which you find on Amazon. She doesn't go by her name, but that was her way because she was still on probation, so she couldn't have anything to deal with the children itself or any racial form that I would be seen as some form of bothering or trying to antagonize them. So to make it all real fast, long story short, all of the gory details came out at the trial, and there were a number of boys involved. Yeah, and Tariq Noel, he's gone on record on plenty of shows. I've interviewed him. We've gone on multiple platforms, and he has no problems in telling what took place, what happened to him from age 7.
Wow. Now, you know what's so ironic? Mark Lamont Hill, I didn't even know he was a Nuwaubian at one point, and he was pretty much telling a story, basically what you were saying. I came across him by accident on Sinetta platform, and when I came across him, I seen where he did the interview, and he was talking about his days as a Nuwaubian.
Okay. Mark, he was here. He came to Hawaii about a month ago. We had dinner. We were sitting down. We were talking about that stuff. I remember Mark back in 95, 6, and 7 when he was coming down. So I can attest to everything that, because he was heavily involved in the organization, driving York around and doing all these different things for him, like an errand boy for the most part. But he was a staunch supporter, spoke the Nuwaubic language, Arabic, all that stuff. Oh, and that helped him when he was a correspondent at Al Jazeera news channel. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Now, I want to ask a question. Is it true that Dr. York got over 100 children with multiple women?
Yeah.
I know one of them name is Jacob York and Prince, and the other one is Prince York. Those are the only two I know of.
What we know that's documented, that the sisters themselves documented, who's a mother of this one, that one. What is documented is 101 children total. That's what we know. 101. The youngest that he had born was in 2001. The first 2 children he had was in 1964. In 1964, one was born in, I think, July. See, he had 2 children born in the same year, but 2 different girls. In 2000, I think it was in 1995 or 6, he had 13 kids born in that same year. And some of the girls who had children with him were already blood related to each other. oh yeah. Unfortunately, that's the truth. Yeah. Yeah. So in exercising power and control over the congregation, he was also an absolute sex addict. Mm-hmm. And I remember Polite, and it was the first time that I actually kind of challenged him for the most part, was when he was saying that how could York have molested all those kids when he suffered from a condition called hereditary angioedema? And angioedema, according to him, it renders you to have a low sex drive. And so my question was, oh, well, if that's the case, did he have angioedema before or after he had 100 kids? No response, of course. But we know. Because York said, and we have the letters that York stated that his condition of hereditary angioedema was cured when he was in the Jones County jail because of some extraterrestrials who visited him in his cell. They came to him to let him know that he's going to be all right. And they cured him of his angioedema. And he floated out of his cell in the presence of different prisoners and guards.
Wow. 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 Ooh. Oh my goodness. Wow. Wow. Okay, so now is Prince York the youngest one out of all?
No, no, he's not the youngest.
Okay.
He is one of York's younger children. Yeah. And
Okay.
he's one of the few that gravitated towards this doctrine of his Nuwaubic doctrine or Nuwaupo doctrine. Because a lot of them don't even mess with that stuff. Some have even changed their name because they don't want to be associated with it. You know, I'm pretty good friends with one of his daughters who helps me whenever I have to write something on regarding the family. And to be accurate with it, I always consult with her because she has all of the names of everybody in the family, the DNA chart, the whole lineage. You know, so I consult with her if I'm going to write anything pertaining to York or pertaining to his family, and I try to pull away from anything usually regarding the family because they're innocent. They just happen to have that name, but York, it takes the name from his father, David Piper York. So York, it didn't start with Dwight. It started going back before David Piper. And York's brother, Oba, whose American name or his born name is David Piper Yorks Jr.
Oh, that's Dr. York's real name?
No, that's York's older brother's name.
Okay.
And York had another brother, I forget his name, but he passed away. And then he had a sister who recently passed away, who was the oldest sister. And then he has, of course, another sister who is somewhat active in the organization, Gail or Dale York, or most people refer to her as Waukee. Yeah. So it's a total of 5 of them.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And that's the thing. None of them were born in Sudan.
They were all born in Massachusetts.
Yeah, they're because their mother Fatima, rest in peace. She was born in Philadelphia, but she met the father, and the father, for whatever the situation was, didn't stay around, and the family had some problems financially, and over time, according to Dale, in the pre-sentencing investigation report on the background of the family, she made the point of saying that the mother had to send the kids off to different relatives from time to time, and that he would live with them, or they would live with different relatives because they economically just couldn't support 5 kids.
Now, I got a question. This is a funny question, though. What is a pickle man?
Really?
Yes, really. I just want to know what is a pickle man because I heard somebody talking about it. I just want to know what is a pickle man.
Look. I listen. I did an article. All right. and a video where I was making fun of a character that York put in one of his books, the Leviathan 666, um, Is God an Extraterrestrial, right? So you had the Predator, the preacher, the Predator,
Mm-hmm.
who York said was real, and then he is what the creatures that look like him come from the Andromeda galaxy. So you had the Predator, then you had the creature from the Black Lagoon. Well, you're young, so back in the 1950s, that was the number one movie that you saw. This is the creature from the Black Lagoon, which was
Mm-hmm.
this fin gill man who comes out of the water and attack. And it's in black and white. You can find it on YouTube. So you had the Predator, the fin gill man, the creature from Black Lagoon, and then you had the pickle man. So you had this weird looking dude, which is all this is in black and white. So you had in the book, you had the pickle man, and he got the little utility belt like Batman, and with these big old eyes, and under the caption says the pickle man. But there's no narratives behind it. There's no narration of who or where he came from, nothing. So all I did was show the stupidity of the pseudoism in it. But of course, the Predator, we know where that came from. And then the creature from Black Lagoon, but then the pickle man, making a big deal. It was just a joke. So my man Malik, who was, rocking with Sarnetta at the time, brought it up because I was joking about it. And then he made it a point because I was jokingly saying, so whenever you see a Nuwaubian, ask him about the pickle man. And he did just that. So to this day, the Nuwaubians are pissed off whenever you bring up the pickle man. Even perhaps I watched somebody had brought up Prince Ramses Richardson, called Prince York. They brought it up to him. And
So there's no narrative behind the pickle man. He's just an image.
It was just an image of a character called the Pickle Man in a couple or three of York's books. Just like York would have Bat Boy from the National Enquirer. Bat Boy, according to York, was real because he was part of an elite group of vampires. But the National Enquirer writes it in a way that makes you think that it's not true. But it's true. The Bat Boy is real. Oh.
Wow.
Yeah. And this is what people are telling other people, that Dr. York, man, that brother was deep. Man, I don't know about all that stuff that happened and all that sex that I ain't got. But all I know is, man, that brother he was sharp. The stuff he taught, that right knowledge, can't nobody touch his teaching. That when I hear that, I know those people don't know what they're talking about because they don't study the book.
Right.
I know they don't.
Right. But I guess because York was so popular back in the 90s, during that time period, especially like you said, amongst the celebrities and amongst the hip hop community. So a lot of people would just like gravitating to his teaching and stuff. You know what's so funny? When Jay-Z first came out in his early years, as a young rapper, there was a video that he was in. I seen them, and I seen some people that was Nuwaubian. They had the picture of Dr. York in the background.
Yeah, they had. Well, yeah, you had that. Because Jazzo was Jay-Z's mentor, and Jazzo was heavily into the Ansars. Okay, so naturally he spread York's doctrinal teachings onto Jay-Z, and they incorporated that in as part of that lyrical, conscious type of rap music at the time. And in that video you're talking about, you see him with one of York's son, Jacob York.
Oh.
So there was a number of guys who did videos featuring the Ansars. You had a group called, what the hell they called? They did a song called Peach Fuzz. It was some bubblegum type of rap music that came out, some solo. It was a minor hit. but it was called Peach Fuzz. You can see it on BET or Friday Night Video, where you see York, you see the guys wearing the jalapenos and things. Um, that was their homage to him because people at the time really respected York. Because one thing I will say, York had the gift of gab. He was a perfectionist in the art of of word gymnastics, and he knew how to get a person to listen to him, how to express himself to where you get the point. So when he would do lectures and what he's teaching, sure, he was coming out of the Bible and the Quran. He had memorized various Quranic surahs to give the impression that he was a fluent Arabic speaking person. So he was able to do all of these things. And for the most part, some of the things that he did bring up were true. The contradictions, all these other issues that were attested to biblically or what was there in those books, he would take that notoriety as being someone being truthful and then spreading this new type of pseudoistic, weird type of teaching. So when people hear him say, I came giving you what you think you want, so you'll learn to think on the level of what I really have to give, which he summed it up as, you can't, I gave you, how's it? Um, I gave you what you want. Let me try it again because he did it on two ways. One, I came giving you what you think you want. Then he changed it and said that I came giving you what you want, so you'll learn to think on what I really have to give. So you think you want reality and truth, but I'm going to give you something else.
Wow.
And that's what it was, because when you start fact checking York's every word in his books, you see that it has no track record. It's just his words. That's it.
Hmm. Wow, that's crazy. That's
He's
crazy.
on record as saying that people make statements and claims about things in history, but they do not show the evidence. And he's guilty of the same thing. Because the majority of what he taught, there's no documentation historically to support it. And if it is not what he was saying. So he purposely deceived people, confused people, all to build up this mystique about who he is and or was. Because I remember his philosophy was that what he teaches and what he knows is not coming from him, it's coming through him because he is an avatar, an illamutajasidin in Arabic. His body is being utilized by beings from other worlds.
Hmm. Whoa.
As as the fictitious character known as Yanun. And Yanun is supposed to be this being who occupies the body of Imam Isa or Dr. York. Even though Yanun is supposed to be somebody different, whenever you see Yanun in pictures, it's always York. And that's supposed to be Melchizedek, Marduk of the Babylonian doctrine or Babylonian literature, Uru Amautu, which is the Akkadian sun deity, and of course, Michael of the book of Revelation, the angel, the green one. Because Al Khidr, the green one that's mentioned in the Quran, that too is supposed to be York. But as the being outside of his body that speaks through Dr. York. Because York says that there are 7 personalities that speak through him. And one of them is Jesus Christ of 2,000 years ago.
Wow, 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 wow. Now, I remember. Now I do know that there's another group that kind of go back and forth with the Nuwaubians. They
Hmm.
go back and forth with them a lot, and that's the Noon Science, which was founded by Afro Uno. Do you tell me what you really
I
know about?
I wouldn't even comment on that because that is not my specialty. That is not an area that I even deal with. I would reserve that for any one of their spokespersons, and particularly a friend of mine who always assists me, or we work together on various projects to go after the Nuwaubians. That'd be Nubu or uh, Nipu. I would recommend you consult with them regarding what they teach on what their what's the word I want to use, what their science is. I really don't know much about it.
Oh, okay. That's cool. That's cool. No problem. I'll reach out to somebody.
Yeah,
I
they're
know you
tremendous.
gave me I know you gave me the name of the brother
Yeah,
to
yeah,
reach out
he's a
to.
good
So
brother, good brother. There's a good brother and
okay,
good sister, and that's outside of my scope of specialty.
okay. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah. But I do have one of their books as well. I have this book which is the Introduction to the Nature of Nature,
Hmm.
book one by Afro Uno. So yeah.
Never read it. I don't know anything about
Okay. That's cool. That's cool. That's no problem.
it.
I will more than likely have them on here one day.
Hmm.
Yeah. So but wow. Well, that's a journey. Now I meant to ask, what made York decide that he's a Nuwaubian all of a sudden? I'm sorry, I meant to ask that. That's one last question.
What would make New York think he's a Nuwaubian?
Yeah, when did he start saying we're Nuwaubians now?
No, that was that was around 90. But see, here's the thing: it's all in the way the words are spelled. Because at one time we were the Nuwaubians with a B, and it wasn't until later you changed the B to the P. Okay? So sometimes you see online, like if you go to Wikipedia, you see the Nuwaubians, it'll be with a B, and then you see that the spelling is Nuwaubians, and now the members have decided to change the name altogether and call themselves Sabians,
Right,
Sabians, whatever they call it, some kind of being. So,
right.
well, now we attribute that change to the diligent work that Tar and I have done, and many others have done in exposing the whole Nuwaubian fallacy. That anytime the name Dr. York came up, it was always connected to sexual battery on minors. So all the Nuwaubians who speak on behalf of York, he's innocent and he's this and he's that, these are child molester apologists. Okay? And that's my thing now, is that to expose all the child molester apologists, because people like what's going on with the polite situation and a whole bunch of others. I used to put a post up in
Africa Bambaataa.
one of the because Sister Leela, she has a series on YouTube on all about that whole story. But I put up a post yesterday in the Amara Squad Facebook group, where there was a brother who was in Wapi, and we knew he he murdered, or he starved a child to death, and he fathered two children with his own daughter. Yeah, this is in Wapi in Georgia. I'm surprised you don't remember his name.
How long ago was this?
This was about mm, I mean a few years ago. Let me see if I can pull it up. Let me see if I can pull it up, because oh my God, so many people. Because that post, a lot of the apologists are constantly trying to justify or excuse York. They don't want to accept the fact of what he did to these people.
Right, and I've noticed that.
Yeah. And so that article, I didn't even put it in an article. I just put it on in that group, and people are trying to, there's so many ways trying to come up with something to explain it. Well, Dr. York didn't teach that. Well, actually, he did, because one of the things that he was saying that at the trial, on behalf of on his attorney side, he was saying that he was being tortured in prison. Oh, I'm sorry, in custody. And the torture consisted of sleeping on the floor, rats and roaches in the adjacent area. Okay. But then we found the video where York is saying that, hey, sleeping on the floor, rats and roaches biting you, don't worry about that. Don't get bit.
Wait a minute,
I,
sleeping on the floor with rats and roaches.
well, that was what a lot of the people, how they lived in the communities. That's how we live. We live like we lived in some third world country. In DC, we lived in a condemned building that had no electricity in the winter. We had to piss in the bathroom in jugs and then take it out and pour it out. Yeah, this is in the Ansar. Well, back then we were Holy Tabernacle Ministries. The Holy Tabernacle Ministries in DC. There was only a few of us. The mosque where the classes were held were good. It looked good, but the brothers, we lived in the the other side of the building on 9th and Rhode Island Avenue on the back side, and we had no electricity, no running water. We couldn't take showers. We had to almost beg the brother Mitchell Hotep, Delonta Jones, to use the shower on their side, because his girl or wife, Akle, Mona Jackson, she didn't like the idea that people were coming or brothers were coming there to use the shower. So they recommended we go down to the YMCA, take a shower down there. Or we would take bird baths by taking a jug of spring water and, you know, wash the valuable parts. But yeah, that's how we live. And why do we enjoy that? Because it was a part of the mission. If you don't live like that, you're not down with the mission. So York said, I had y'all live in horrendous situations, because now nobody you can withstand anything. So I had y'all sleeping on floors and rats and roaches, and y'all complain about rats and roaches. So my whole solution was, don't get bit. Don't get bit by a rat or roach. So then when I put the video and the audio out and matched that with his complaint about being tortured in jail, about sleeping on the floor and having to deal with rats and roaches, you see the inconsistency there. And so people saw that, well, damn. He said, well, if that's torture, then you're torturing the Nuwaubians. Because he had us living like that. Hell, if at the trial, the sisters were talking about, and they had the pictures and the letters of, not the letters, the notes that they had to pass to the sisters to give to him, begging York to fix parts of the inside where the sisters slept, because there was no running water. It was cold. The girls had no sanitation napkins. They had to wrap. According to the testimony, they had to take nylon hoses, nylon stockings, and wrap toilet paper in it and use it as a sanitation napkin. Because York, a multi-millionaire at the time,
Oh my God.
Yeah. I posted all of this stuff. It's on my website. This is documented because that was part of the evidence.
Oh, you kidding me? That is so unsanitary. Wow. I'm surprised nobody ever reported that.
Well, but see, here's the thing. A lot of people aren't aware of what was said at the trial. And the Nuwaubians, though, see, when the trial took place, Adrian Patrick, the lead attorney for York, had various Nuwaubians come in and take shorthand and write down everything that was said. So these trial notes, so they know when they take it back, they can go over there and compare it and check and try to see who's inconsistent, all this other stuff. So there are people who had this information, but they never released it. So when I released different parts of the transcript, sealed transcripts, this stuff was mentioned as part of the evidence against York, that he lived lavishly while his congregation lived in abject poverty. Girls were almost at the point of death because they were not eating properly. They had a lack of nutrition. Nikki Lopez almost died because he had a potassium deficiency because they were not eating right. When you went down there to get books on Wednesdays, you would see the little girls that would come up and deliver the product. You would be there sometimes all day into the night, waiting for somebody to bring you your product that you paid for $2,000 or $1,000 or whatever to pick
Uh-oh.
up the product. You see these girls, they will come up, they look almost
Brother, are
anorexic.
you there?
Oh shit. Uh-oh. What happened?
Are you there, Brother Chuck?
Yeah, I'm here.
Brother Chuck.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Uh,
Are you there? I'm sorry. Go
yeah,
ahead,
I'm here.
repeat what you were saying.
No, what I was
Yeah,
saying was
repeat.
when they would come up the hill bringing products, they were some in such bad shape they looked anorexic. They were so skinny. And I remember the brothers all whenever you went down to Eatonton and whenever you see the brothers, they would always bum money from you. Come on now, give us some sign. We got nothing to eat up here. Because they all they did was work on the pyramids and all the other stuff on the property, but they didn't go out to make any money. So they would beg brothers to give them money or shame them if they didn't. And so, now, why don't you slip me five, huh? Now these are people, the men slept in the barn. They didn't sleep with their girls or wives and none of that stuff. The girls or the women stayed in the separate quarters. And then York had his little harem, which was his inner circle, where they stayed with him, in particular the younger victims. Or they would go to York's house under the guise of cleaning it for him, and he would molest them there. Because an adult was the cover and gave they were the enablers for York to molest.
Mm. Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, that sanitary napkin thing, that was one of one of the more emotional written parts of the evidence because it's like, but this guy is a multi-millionaire and even bragged about being rich. And he said, I have to be rich in order for me to put this information out here for you. If I was poor, how am I going to get this information across to you? How are we going to produce these books? So I have to be rich. But he was able to get rich like that because he had a lot of money that came by way of zero paying on taxes. Brothers was turning in $100 a day in various communities that supported him. New York, Boston, DC, Florida, Georgia, Philadelphia, Connecticut. $100, $50 a day. And then in addition to that money that's turned in, they had to pay for products in order to put in their bookstores. And their quota was 2,000. And whenever they call you up and say, the master teacher is looking for a project that has to be completed, and we are asking your store to submit $5,000. You don't say, I can't get it. You had to go out and hustle it. So we were York's whores. He was our pimp, and we were his whores.
Wow.
Yeah, it was the pimp culture. So when you see now polite who digressed from all this quote unquote black cultural stuff on into where you see with the Versace and the Fendi and then the women who were dressed like prostitutes, you know, the flashy vehicles like the pimp has. Yeah, that's the pimp culture. That's what York did. Because in addition to seeing him one day, where you would have a whole bunch of girls around him, and they're dressed in these East Indian style garbs. There will be other times when you would see York with the red derby, the whole Dr. York persona, and they'd be dressed as prostitutes. Yeah. Matter of fact, Khalid Muhammad referred to it. One day you'll see them, they'd be Muslim, then the next thing you know, they'll see them dressed like hoes on at a club. That's how York had it. So others were emulating him in his style. That's Dr. York. And bear in mind, when you hear that name, Doctor, there always should be an asterisk there because he was not a doctor. He did not receive a certificate. He had no doctorate, no degree, none of that. Matter of fact, the doctor part was simply a stage name as the love man, Dr. York, because he's from New York, and that was his gimmick, the love man. He patterned himself to be a crooner like Marvin Gaye to appeal to the women. So that was how he was able to gain his wealth through different hustles and money that was never accounted for in taxes, which was the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars given to him weekly by multiple different communities.
Mm. Mm-mm-mm. Wow. I don't even know. I don't know what to say. I'm speechless. I'm really speechless. It's like
you ain't even heard nothing yet. We just going over generals. When you get down to specifics, you be speechless already.
Is there a little bit more to this?
There's a whole lot more.
Okay, well, share a little bit more, just a little bit. I know it's so much, but share what you can.
Well, it all depends. You have to push the right button, and I don't have too much more time because I got to do some more packing. I'm moving on the other side of the island, so. But we can do this again, of course. But at the same time, formulate some of the questions, some of the things you may have read or what you've heard them teach. But in a nutshell, York was one of the most charismatic, influential con men, the most amazing black con men of the 20th century. We haven't seen anything like York since Reverend Knight. Now you're young. Reverend Knight was a prominent.
I know who Reverend Ike was. But
you did good.
Yeah, but see, I don't think Reverend Ike was nothing like York, though. I mean, the way you describe it.
No, he was a charismatic individual.
Yes.
He had that ability to reach into a person just by talking to him.
Right.
Reverend Knight, P.O. Box 1000, Boston, Massachusetts. I remember because I used to listen to his show.
Right. But see, Reverend Ike made a lot more sense than Dr. York.
Yeah, his whole thing was divine, economic. Yeah. But my point in that was we had seen such charisma since him. You froze. Yeah.
Woo, that's a lot of information right there. That is, whoa. You don't went deep.
But let me be fair though. Let me be fair. There are some people in the organization, a lot. They didn't co-sign a lot of the stuff that York was teaching. As far as they knew, they just wanted to be a part of something. They read something that appealed to them, and they wanted to join because it was some type of fellowship. So I don't blame, and I try to target my attacks to specific individuals and not so much as a lot of the innocent people that may have gotten swept up in the euphoria of someone who paraded themselves as being a messiah. Did you know your screen is frozen?
Oh, is it frozen? Mm-hmm. Can you see me? Can you see me now?
Nope.
No, you can't see me?
Oh, there you are. I see. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So I only time I really battle with these people is if the ones who feel they want to step out. And it's usually the people that never met York who are his biggest defenders. They never met him, were never Nuwaubians, never Ansars, never part of the Holy Tabernacle Ministries, but they read a few books, got down with the group, and then they feel they can go and start talking about all this stuff. So, people always want to say, let's debate. Listen, I've been doing this debate thing for years. And when it came to them, I've argued back and forth, because there's no formal debate. There's no moderator. You just jump in without any kind of structure. That's not a debate. So my thing is, what is there to debate at this point? You
Right.
know, right now I'm like that. We're just sitting in the locker room taking interviews. The debate is over. Your man lost. His doctrine is being exposed daily for the pseudoism and the stupidity that it is. What is there to debate? There is nothing. So I try to share my experience and from what I've been able to research, and everything that I present, I offer the evidence to support it, so it won't be me saying this in a biased format. I'm saying, well, I'm quoting York, I'm quoting his audio, video, publications. That's it.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to get away from it, but every time I stop, they start trying to pull me back in. And they get mad when I start going at them.
I mean, but you only, bringing out the facts. I mean, because
Yeah,
you've been in there for a long time.
I want to be one of the first black Assyriologists. And I can't even continue, I can't even do all my studies because I gotta waste time going into the Nuwaubian doctrine to expose something and start going after these idiots. But with the website, I can just, copy and paste an article because what they say is so predictable that it's a running talking point. So all you got to do is say, oh, I know where that comes from. And you just go to an article and that'll debunk that idea.
Mm. Wow. I mean, dang. Yeah, but I've met some good people that are in the Nuwaubian Nation.
Yes, I will agree. I will agree.
I met some positive people. Like I was telling you about one brother that I met, who had passed away. He was a good brother that I met. He was an elder. He was kind of like, he was one of the first one kind of got me into the doctrine, but he got me also studying other information, like studying Dr. Ben, Dr. John, and all of that stuff. He said, here, just study other things. Don't just, study Dr. Your stuff. I mean, he was a good brother, very humble, very respectful. And he had he had a bookstore down in Little Five Points with his wife. But yeah, his wife is the only one that's taking over now because he's no longer here. So yeah, but I also got another question now. As far as Dr. Yours health issue, I know you said he has something wrong with him as far as his low sex drive or something like that.
No. Let me give it no.
Or,
that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
That's what Polite said.
Okay.
What I did was I challenged that by asking if that were true, then how do you explain him having 101 documented children, not even counting all of the children or the women that he had sex with around the world? The 101 kids are here, minus 2, I think. And then there's a whole bunch of people that he went on tour, because I remember talking to some of the guys from Delphonics, and they were saying, oh man, girls just throw their panties at Doc when he was on stage. Sure, the love man, because that was his whole theme. He was the love man, romance, the crooner. Oh. And so that is one of the avenues that he lured women in. And so he had a lot of sex parties and orgies.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah.
Now,
I think to answer your question, his medical condition is, from what I understand, is that he's in a wheelchair and that his health is declining.
Oh, because somebody posted up a picture. I don't know if it's an actual picture, like his lip is swelling or something like that. Like his face was swelling or his lip was swelling or something. I don't
know of any picture like that.
Okay.
Because he being in the Colorado Supermax, there's no pictures being taken. The last photos you see of York are all when he was in jail from different places that he was transported. There are no images of York while he was in the Colorado Supermax. And I'm surprised. And what I find is ironic because a lot of people have been catching the COVID virus in prison, and particularly in the Colorado Supermax as well.
Wow.
I think there was a mafia killer, an underboss. His name was gas pipe.
Gas pipe.
Gas pipe.
Okay.
Gas pipe Castillo. And he recently died from COVID, from being incarcerated. So who knows? Maybe York is. Who knows? I don't even know if he's still alive. You never know.
Mm. Wow. Wow. Well, all right then. Well, thank you for that 2 hour talk interview. I really appreciate that a lot. I have learned a lot of information. Some of the information I was familiar with, and some of it that is new to me that I haven't even heard of.
Hey, listen. I'm going to share. Since you have my email, I'm going to send you some of this stuff so you see it for yourself. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm gonna send you. Yeah, I'm just gonna give you something just to kind of give you uh, confirmation of what I'm saying. Because I don't ever want to be known as spreading. I do not spread rumors about York. There's stuff that I've heard that cannot be verified or confirmed, and I do not talk about it. I will not. I try not to talk about, you know, certain family members because of this or that. I don't get into that. I just deal with him and what he said, what we can find and document. That's it.
Okay. Okay then.
All right.
Well, I'm looking forward to those documents. Well,
Absolutely.
thank you.
I
Thank
work
you.
tonight, so while I'm at work, I got nothing but time, and then all that time I do studying. So
Oh, so what
yeah.
type of work you doing, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm in the administrative section at a very posh resort in Hawaii. So I'm around a lot of celebrities all night.
Oh, okay. So what do? You kind of like just, like, is there some type of like performances they do or something, or you just?
No. Where they vacation? It's in the hotel industry.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So that's how I'm a lot of different celebrities that I get to meet. Or like when Mark came here, he was staying at a prominent hotel, the Waldorf Astoria, and that was how we had dinner there, and we had a chance to chop it up. So
Okay.
I know who's coming and everything.
Wow. So you got it going on. You got to connect. All righty.
I'm
All
good.
right.
I'll be retiring soon, though. No.
Oh, wow. So, well, are you retiring next year or?
Yeah, I'm a workaholic. Besides, I'm not 65. Don't get me. I'm not there yet. I'm getting up there.
Okay. Well, you got, like I said, you got it going on. You looking good for your age. You got it going on. That's right. All right then.
Right.
Well, you take it easy,
brother. It has been a pleasure.
Yes, sir. It has been a pleasure. It's nice meeting you finally.
Oh, hit me anytime if you have questions or anything. Feel free. Hit me up at any time. I have no problem.
All right then. Thank you so much. I will do that. All right. You take it easy, brother.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Peace. All right. All righty then. Well, that was a great interview. Great conversation. All right, I'm sorry about that. But if you guys want to learn more about this whole thing about Dr. York and the Nuwaubians, I have a book in handy. Okay, I have a book, and this book right here is called Nuwaubian Pan-Africanism, Back to Our Roots. Emikasi Anane Doze. I don't know how to say a person's last name, but this is the title of the book. Let's see, what year was this book written? It was written in 2020. So yeah, this is the current book. So if you guys want to look it up, you can. So I have it right here in handy. Nuwaubian Pan-Africanism, Back to Our Root, and Mika C. Anadoze. Okay. And of course, you can find out more stuff online about Dr. York. You know, you can go on his website, or you can go on Chuck Morgan website, which is Nuwaubianism.com. So if you go on his website, Nuwaubianism.com, you can check out more information. I'm going to put it in the chat. Okay, so that's the name of the website, Nuwaubianism.com. Okay, so that's Chuck Morgan website, and he goes into more thorough details. And of course, I got some of his books here. All the old books. I know some of y'all might be familiar with it. Yeah, these are Dr. York's books. Yeah. Yeah, so these are books by the Nuwaubians. Yeah. But this one is kind of baffling. Is Egyptian ontology or mythology. That's the one that's kind of funny to me, because I don't know how Egyptian can be ontology or mythology. You know, but let me kind of read this a little bit. So I don't know, maybe I should read this. Oh, maybe I shouldn't. I don't know. Oh, this book is so interesting. Oh, it's funny. What a funny. Well, hmm. Maybe I should go into it. Maybe. Yeah, let me go into it. Let me go into a little bit of this. All right. So it's sad and makes us mad that Caucasoid have been invading and persuading Negroes to believe fiction and flat-out lies about their own African ancestors. They put that some races of Caucasoid have been coming to us, our land, Africa, be it called Egypt, Ethiopia, Kenya, Sudan, Nigeria, Mali, Zimbabwe, Morocco, Liberia, Libya, Sierra Leone, Congo, Madagascar, Somalia, Eritrea, Chad, Mauritania, Angola, Guinea, Algeria, Tanzania. You know, and I'm just going to stop there. And all the subparts of Africa which broke away from the above in my birthplace in this flesh, Ghana. So it's funny that Dr. York said he was from Sudan. Now he say he was from Ghana. But okay. It says, as well as those parts most don't know was originally part of Africa, such as America. This is what they put, such as America, North and South, as well as Arabia, West Bank, Jordan, Israel, all the way to Mesopotamia, as they recorded in their own Bible by their own God's word, Genesis 15:8. So he used Genesis 15:8. In that day, Yahweh the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, unto thou seed have I, Yahweh, given this land from river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates. So I'm pretty baffled that they said that all the land that was part of Africa, such as America and North and South. I'm just I'm just pretty baffled by that. I mean, so how's that Africa? How's that North and South America a part of Africa? How's that America? Wait, how's that North America and South America was a part of Africa when that's a whole nother hemisphere? But okay, well, I don't know. Anyways, you guys, thank you for watching my channel. So until then, you guys take it easy on yourself. And this your girl Tiffany, and I'm logging off, and I'm saying peace and power and elevation be to all you beautiful people out there. Thank you for tuning in to my channel. Make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell, share my channel, and all that great stuff. And until next time, this your girl Tip, and I'm logging off. Deuces.